Hey guys, remember Blake Masters? That guy who was supposed to be like, a MAGA up and comer? He was, I think he was like an investor with Elon Musk and PayPal or something. Or no, I don't think he's that old, but he was a part of Peter Thiel's company, I believe. He was like on his board. I don't remember the exact details. But anyway, Blake Masters is some kind of like vaguely Christian-based big tech guy. He said a lot of great things. He seemed pretty intelligent. And of course, because he seemed like a good guy, he of course lost and has been completely abandoned by Trump, who will now endorse his primary opponent in a measly congressional race. I guess you don't lose when you have the Trump endorsement, or else you're dead to him. Interestingly enough, though, the guy who Trump is endorsing against Blake Masters in the primary is also someone who Trump endorsed in 2022, did not officially win his race. But from what I understand, because I was trying to understand the logic here, I'm like, okay, so both Abe Hamadeh, who Trump endorsed, a Muslim, and Blake Masters, statue Avi-esque Christian man with lots and lots of money to self-fund his own campaign. Someone who, in Trump's words, could not be bought because he could self-fund his own campaign. Anyway, they were both endorsed by Trump, and both of them are not currently holding the offices that they were running for. In Blake Masters' case, he was running for the Senate, and in Abe Hamadeh's case, he was running for Attorney General. This is both in Arizona, I should add. However, Abe Hamadeh, as a lawyer, did a lot after the election to sue and try to investigate potential voter fraud. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube yet? I can't remember what the rules are currently. Anyway, hopefully this doesn't get taken out. I've only had like one video removed in all these years. I'm kind of surprised by that. It was, of course, vaccine related. But none of my election stuff from 2020 or past that has ever gotten taken down, which I find pretty interesting. So Honest Abe would not admit that it was a fair fight, which I agree with him, it wasn't. Arizona is one of these states that has gotten to be very, very sketchy in how they carry out their elections. Not that I think that elections, even if they are carried out fairly, is like that's not a just way of picking who our leaders are and who is going to have control over other people. Like, even if the elections are fair, they're bullshit, in my eyes. But from the perspective of someone who takes elections seriously, as laughable as that idea is to me, the elections in a lot of parts of America clearly are very, very sketchy and hard to take seriously. And so I guess because of that, Trump now is going to endorse Hamadeh over Masters. But I would think if you have two guys who ostensibly, there's no question, both of them 100% loyal to Trump. If Trump told them to slit their own throats, as far as we know, both of them would do it because thus far they have obeyed whatever commands have been issued. Neither of them have, to my knowledge, betrayed Mr. Trump, as the sycophants would say. They're both loyal lieutenants. However, I guess Masters, where he slipped up, was in not being as vigorous in his resistance to the official results of the election as Abe Hamadeh was. Now, Abe Hamadeh had the most reason to try and challenge these results because officially his election was the closest. He had the least amount of votes, and so he did not have to. It was a pretty thin threshold of fraud that he would have to discover, or malfeasance even, not even fraud, just questionable ballots based on precedent in the past we've had for overturning elections and redoing them. I don't remember the exact margin, but it was not very much. And I believe that Abe Hamadeh did clear that. He, they found some pretty spooky stuff going on in Arizona, but of course the courts are never going to do that for a Republican, even though the courts have overturned elections on behalf of Democrats and ordered elections be redone in the past before. But anyway, it's not like I said, it's not like Blake Masters, just because I guess he didn't go quite as far as this Abe guy. It's not like he betrayed Trump. And yet he still gets stabbed in the back. So I guess this is just another example of Mr. Trump's famous loyalty. You would think if this is someone who was loyal to his supporters, he would just not endorse either of them if he has two of his supporters running against each other. But instead, he never does this. He always endorses in a race where there are two people. And usually he endorses the worst guy of the two. Like, there might be someone who's, like, really smart and has a lot going for him and supports Trump. And then another guy who, in a lot of cases, you've never heard of and is some, like, oftentimes just plain old local establishmentarian who says, I love Trump, and then Trump will endorse that guy rather than the genuine guy. This happens all the time. Although in this case, both of these are guys who he's endorsed in the past. So this is not as egregious as, let's say, when, what was his name? Oh, I forgot. The guy, he's originally from New York, lives in Central Florida. He was a state representative. Had a pretty sizable Twitter following. Wow, he's just this is what happens when Trump endorses your opponent in a primary. You get memory hold. Anthony Sabatini. I remembered it. It was Anthony Sabatini. Anthony Sabatini, great guy. Always was, in addition to being a great guy, he was a very steadfast supporter of Trump. And when the time came for it, and he was, always maligned and held back by the Florida State Republican Party. They didn't give him a seat on any of the committees in the state house when he was in the state house. So he was ostracized like Marjorie Taylor Greene or something. And so when the time came for him to run for Congress, the most outsider of outsiders, the most, someone who was hated by the party establishment, Trump, of course, endorses his opponent. Because that's just how Trump rolls. And perhaps at times like this, maybe people will be tempted. You know what? Yeah, Trump, he's done some stupid things. I wonder what the other Republicans running for president are up to. Maybe we should consider, voting for them in the primary, since there is still a primary coming up, and, Trump's made some dumb decisions. Let's look at what they've got going on. And so you check in on the Republican primary debate, which thankfully is down now only to 4 people, and I still didn't even watch the debate, although I heard it had some a couple of interesting moments, but I can't be bothered to watch it because, again, none of these people are going to win. But hey, just for the sake of it, let's look at what's going on with them, because I just said something, not great about Trump. So let me be fair and address the other people in the race. Well, Nikki Haley is still bent on making questioning Israel a hate crime. She says that so-called anti-Zionism is just plain old anti-Semitism, and of course anti-Semitism must be stamped out by the FBI. They must break down the doors of anyone who would question whether or not Israel is killing innocent civilians in Gaza. Then you got Chris Christie being a typical douchebag that he always has been. Early on, he was like a douchebag in a fun way, because he was doing it like against the left in New Jersey. He was opposing things that, generally I didn't like either. But now he just kind of opposes everything I like. And so when he's doing that, his douchey attitude becomes, instead of being entertaining, it just becomes annoying. And he's at like 0.1% in the polls anyway, so who cares? Vivek had a pretty good night. Vivek's pretty cool, but he's not going to be president. Hate to say it. I wish he'd do something else. I wish there was something for him to do. He's a smart guy. I like the way he talks. He's bold. He's willing to say things like the Great Replacement isn't a theory, it's the Democratic Party platform, or something like that. I mean, this is a great line. And then you've got old Ronnie D. What's Ron DeSantis up to? Well, yesterday he decided to go on Fox News with his wife. Just in case anyone's still watching Fox News, I don't know anyone that does. But just in case, he wanted to go on there and talk to their 5 viewers and make sure that everyone across the country, mothers, grandmothers, and whoever else, get your grandma from Nantucket, fly her to Iowa for the Iowa caucuses. Anyone can vote in it. Doesn't matter who. You don't need to be from Iowa. Just show up. Just flood their borders. Show up and vote in their election. That's what Casey DeSantis wants to do. So we got Chris Christie being a douche. You've got Nikki Haley being a tool of whatever military-industrial complex special interest is, paying her the most today. Whether that's, Israel or Boeing or whoever. You got Vivek shitposting from the debate stage. I mean, he's just, he is, to me, Vivek is the greatest Twitter account on television. And then you have the DeSantis family advocating voter fraud as the only means of beating Trump. All right, folks. I gave him a chance. If Vivek was a serious alternative, sure, maybe it would make sense to support him over Trump because Trump's doing bad stuff. But at this point, I don't see any point in voting in the primaries. It's not going to be competitive. I'm not going to go out of my way to vote for, Trump when he's, being dumb and he's going to win anyway. I'm not going to go out of my way to vote for Vivek because he's going to lose. And do I really feel that strongly about him being that much better than Trump? Because he could also just have plenty of things that come out to make him worse. He could be worse in other ways. It's just like there's no like easy call here. But it's also not a hard call. It's not difficult or easy. It's just indifferent. But I'm not indifferent in the same way that I would have been in 2008. Was there anyone good running in 2008? I don't think so. Other than Ron Paul, who had no chance. But, Ron Paul was good enough on everything. You would go out of your way to vote for him because it would kind of feel nice, even though you knew he was going to lose. Even though he did win Iowa, they just refused to release the results until after a few other states went, so that he had no momentum coming out of Iowa. Or did he win Iowa in 2012? Wait, what year was it? Or no, or did Mike Huckabee win Iowa in 2008, right? And then was Ron Paul second? Okay, no, it was 2012. I had to double check. Yeah, Huckabee won in 2008. Paul won in 2012. And Bernie won in 2020. But again, the party, when the wrong guy wins the Iowa caucus, they just say, oh, the results are inconclusive. We got no idea. And then you find out 2 months later, after there have been a whole bunch of other primaries and the thing's already settled, oh yeah, that guy who lost all his momentum because he was supposed to win Iowa and then the results were inconclusive? Yeah, he actually won Iowa. I mean, really, what is the point in campaigning in that state if they're just going to hide the results if you win? I mean, what a waste of your campaign. You spend all this time trying to win, and then you do win. So that, and the reason why you spend all your early days in Iowa, New Hampshire, or one or the other, depending on how much money you have or how much chance you think you have, respectively, in each state, is so that you can build momentum, and that will set the narrative moving into the other states. But, if they don't tell you that you won Iowa until after Super Tuesday, all that was a waste. There's no point in campaigning in Iowa then. Boy, what am I going to call this video? I have no idea. I was just going to make it something about, Blake Masters and Abe Hamadeh, but, then I started talking about the presidential primary, and then talked about freaking DeSantis's voter fraud scheme, and now we're talking about the Iowa caucus in general in 2012. Anyway, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.